Live?
Going live on YouTube's.
I always thought
You're
Awesome Hardware
live.
was pre-recorded.
We're actually just animations. We're holograms.
Oh yeah, it's computer-generated AI.
But now we are actually live to both Twitch and YouTube. How's it going,
Live.
YouTube and Twitch? Going live on welcome,
Hi.
welcome back to
I
Awesome
always
Hardware
thought Awesome
episode.
Hardware was
Oh
pre-recorded.
no! Oh, the audio. Shut up, son of a bitch. Adult warning. Adult language warning. I guess that came a little early today. Um, but welcome. This is a tech news show for the most part, and we're going to be talking about tech news today. There's a lot going on, a lot of concrete information that we have to discuss, as well as rumors. So that'll be taken with a big old grain of salt. But among the list of headliners, we've got, of course, from the title and thumbnail, the whole issue with AMD Zen 3 not being compatible with previous generation motherboards like the 300 and 400 series. Some people are upset, others don't
Scandal.
care. We'll get to the
Outrage.
bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it and figure out, is AMD in fact a literal scumbag or not?
Burn something.
Burn,
Burn
burn
something
something,
in
burn something
protest.
on an Intel 10900K.
Hmm.
Because we'll be talking about that as well. These chips, if the rumors are true, can get fairly toasty, which is not hard to believe given the previous generations. But we'll discuss more of that as well as Ampere GPUs, both on the HPC and the consumer slash gaming side of things, which is very exciting. Again, if the rumors are true. Um, and there's some other things we'll be talking about, but we'll cross
I'm
that bridge when we
excited.
get to it. What are you drinking, Paul? We like to drink on this show.
I am
If you haven't
drinking
noticed.
what they had available at Sprouts. The best thing available at
Mm,
Sprouts, which was Fat Tire, which is good. I like
yeah,
Fat Tire. It's
Fat
very good.
Tires.
Solid amber ale.
Fat Tire was my gateway beer.
Hmm.
I was drinking Budweiser and Mickey's malt liquor before Fat Tire shut up, and then just opened my world
Like,
to
oh, beer
craft
can
beers.
taste good.
I know.
Enjoyable. Whoa. And also get you drunk
I know.
if you so
Drink enough
desire.
of it.
Fat Tire is
Um.
great. I also
Yes.
should take a moment. Oh, well, you should show what you're drinking, and I should
Yes.
also take a moment to apologize for my somewhat low quality webcam. I have lots of really nice cameras, and we're using Google Hangouts, and it would not accept any of them for the video input. So I'm on a webcam. I'm on a Logitech C920.
Bummer.
Anyway,
But
sorry.
you know what? Your voice sounds golden, and
That's good.
that's what counts.
I do have high quality audio at least.
High quality audio and a face for radio. So we're good.
Kind of you to say.
I was drinking an El Segundo Citra Pale Ale, which is very tasty, but I've
Mm.
since moved on from it, and I'm now drinking some Redemption Bourbon Whiskey, which is
Ooh.
quite tasty.
Well,
Um, so
some
yeah, prepare for me to be super hammered by the end of the show. No, hopefully not. I mean, hopefully a little bit, right? A little hammered.
I mean that's part of the charm, isn't it?
Absolutely,
Just get a little sloppy.
absolutely. All right,
Cheers.
so let's dive in. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for being here. Thank you guys.
Hmm.
Appreciate it. Thanks to our good friends and moderators in chat, Crafty, and if I don't know if I saw Cell yet, but if he's here, hi Cell, hi to both of you. Thank you for being here. You honestly don't have to because we don't pay you, but you're still here. It's amazing. You guys just show up. So thank you. By the way, we'll be doing a straw poll for every single article that we're talking about today,
Whoa.
and mods, if you could please put those in chat when I mention them, that would be fantastic. Because after we discuss each news article, we're going to be doing an Ask the Audience segment where Paul and I will have to guess your answers for those 5 polls.
It's a
And
quiz.
it's a quiz.
If you get the questions wrong, you'll be kicked out of the stream
That's right.
for a period of 1 week.
That's right.
Got it.
If your opinions don't line up with ours, you will be permabanned.
Sounds
We
good.
like to keep things fair. All right, let's dive into our first story of the day, which is from WCCF Tech. Great guys, pretty much. Nvidia is teasing their new Ampere GPU powered DGX A100, which is a supercomputing system. And the first images of this system were spotted last week. Paul, I think you may have mentioned what the system in last week's show.
Well, they had the announcement that they said get amped. And that was as far as
Right.
they had gone. None of the
Yes.
pictures I think were out at that point.
That's right. So this is a follow-up teaser to the original teaser. Um, Nvidia is just a huge tease at this point,
Hmm.
and this teaser is a little creative. It's a little fun. It actually shows Jensen Huang, our Lord and Savior, pulling the system out of an oven to show off what he's been cooking in the Nvidia labs lately. So it's pretty playful. It's fun, you know. He pulls it out. You get to see Jensen in the kitchen, which is a rare sighting.
I'm guessing this is his house, right?
It looks like his house. I mean, it's a very nice looking place from what I can tell. So
Is that
I
like
wouldn't be
I
surprised.
don't know about any of the rest of you. Like, cool. It's an Ampere based, large GPU that they're going to be selling to, for server farms and stuff like that. I was just
Right.
checking out his digs and like stuff. Like for instance,
It's the same way.
did you notice this is on the second floor? You can see stairs out
Yes.
there. So he has a second floor kitchen.
Yeah, he
Um,
does. That's crazy.
which is
I wonder if he's
interesting.
got
Yeah.
one on the first floor too. He's like,
So
you know
this
what?
is so this might be his backup kitchen.
Parallel cooking
Yeah.
is a must. We need to have it on both levels.
But some nice
Um,
accents around the oven stove combo, and I like the nice big island. It's a
yeah,
tasteful
it's a good island. And I
tasteful
also
choice
like
with the
that
granite.
Jensen, even though he's in quarantine, he has a backup to the leather jacket, which is the cotton vest.
The cotton vest.
The cotton vest has come in
What if
as a temporary replacement for the leather jacket. It's just too stuffy for a quarantine environment. The
it's
leather.
it's it's almost like if it was red, it almost might be like a Marty McFly
Ooh, yeah,
looking
right.
thing if the
He's
middle part
he's a shade of red and one hoverboard away.
slightly. But
Um,
anyway,
but he's looking sharp. But yeah, that's a beefy GPU. It's actually eight GPUs, which is pretty impressive. This teaser suggests that Nvidia is planning to officially announce the system during GTC, which happens in just a couple days, May 14th. Um, and at this point, I guess we can throw a poll, our first poll into chat. In order to one up this this amazing oven stunt, how should Jensen tease the upcoming RTX 3080 Ti? So you guys go ahead and answer that to your best ability, and we'll discuss the options and the answers that you've come up with later on. But a little bit more information about this ridiculous GPU. The DGX A100 is a supercomputer in basically a workstation form factor designed for the deep learning and HPC community. It's the first DXG solution, or DGX. I have dyslexia anytime I try to say this acronym. It's the first DGX solution using Ampere GPUs, which is exciting. And the A100 presumably refers to the graphics chip GA100, A for Ampere, which is the biggest chip in the Ampere lineup. And like I said, the system's actually using 8 of them, each with their own massive heatsink. It's probably how they were able to stay relatively cool in that oven. They are passively cooled though, because the whole goal here is server and HPC environments where you're trying to reduce on noise and the failure of moving parts like fans. So that's cool.
these are well, there's no fans in the picture, but I would have to imagine this would be in a server rack with fans on either side
Yes,
pushing
right. Yeah, that's a good
air.
point. Yeah. So um, this is likely to disrupt the HPC market. Never thought you'd see so much disruption coming out of an oven, but several leaks have shown that one of the higher end configured systems is rated to be about 30 teraflops, and that's a floating point precision 32, which is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive stuff that Nvidia and Jensen have been cooking. So obviously this doesn't really concern too many of us in a more direct fashion, since I don't think many of us are super into setting up our own mini supercomputers and crunching numbers with that sort of thing. But something we may find interesting is the actual architecture of the GPU itself. Is Ampere, because these GPUs will be the same ones that we see in Nvidia's upcoming 3000 series, which is going to be for gamers and the like. And that's what we're going to be talking about next. By the way, I haven't even changed the XSplit, because I'm terrible at doing this. Paul
Change.
Paul has been handling the XSplit control for like years of the show,
Oh, you
and
haven't
now that
shown
it's in my
you
hands,
haven't shown anyone what you're talking
I
about
haven't
this whole
shown
time.
anything. I haven't shown anything. I'm just it's terrible.
I'm sitting over here being like, wow, I have so much. I've been posting links in chat and stuff like that, like trying to be helpful. I'm like, there's so much I can do right now.
And I mean, I'm sure that there were some people in chat who were noticing it, but I don't see people still raging about it, which means that they're satisfied with our beautiful faces, as well they should be. But here's just a quick little snippet for those
Show
of you who
show
desperately
them
needed to
show
see.
them Jensen's house at
I
least.
am, I am.
Okay.
That the clip was playing. It's just a quick 27-second clip, but there it was. Jensen looking fresh in that jacket, beautiful oven, stovetop,
Hmm.
and I was hoping he'd put on some oven mitts, but instead he's just got these little pot holders. That's
Well,
fine, I guess.
if you used oven mitts, it would imply that the chips run hotter. See, obviously, that's a testament
Mm.
to their efficiency. He's able to get it out of there with just
Ah,
some of
that
those.
explains why he's maybe wearing the jacket. Like these run so cool that I can even bundle up.
Yeah, he's cold
I'm
because
chilly.
they run at a negative temperature,
These heat
which
sinks.
is why they're in the oven because it had to warm
They
up
need to,
enough
right,
so it wouldn't
as to not reach
freeze.
sub-zero.
It wouldn't freeze Jensen, and then he would shatter like the T-1000 in Terminator 2.
Absolutely, you could see the fear in his eyes of shattering.
That's yeah. So there's a lot you can infer just from this video, which is it's a cool tease. It's interesting.
Makes you wonder if a picture is worth a thousand words, how many words is a video worth? Depends. You'd have to do
Depends
the
on the
math.
frame rate
Yep,
and the 6 frame rate. Also, a picture worth 1,000 words. It doesn't specify the resolution of that picture, so you'd have to determine
that's
that
absolutely
first
true.
before you could extrapolate how many words a video is worth. But I imagine Gamers Nexus will do that at some point.
Yes, waiting for the
Okay.
review. All right, we can move on to the next story, which is once again about Ampere, but this one might be a bit more relevant to
Wait, what
all
about
of
Strap
us.
Poll? I want
We're
to.
gonna.
Oh, we're
Oh, you
waiting until
wanna?
the end.
Well, I was just gonna we were gonna go over. That was gonna be a part of the Ask the Audience segment.
Oh, the ask
So
audience is all the Strap Polls. Okay, as I didn't
yeah,
understand. I didn't realize the show was that hooked and tied together
I
and planned
know.
out from
I'm
beginning.
thinking ahead.
This is impressive, Kyle.
I know.
Impressive.
Full of
You know, you haven't
surprises.
switched back from when you switched scenes.
No, you're right. I can do that. I can do that now. I'm telling you, man. It's been years. I don't think I've ever done this. I
I
don't
don't
think
think
I've
you
ever.
have
Maybe I've
either.
done it once or twice. I can count on one hand how many times I've actually run the XSplit on this show. And it's oh my goodness, it's showing.
You see, people have an added appreciation now for
Yeah,
this level of skill it
I
takes.
do. I appreciate every time like we go over your place or my place. I'm like, oh, it's so nice that Paul does everything.
Yep.
I'd be lost without him. And
Hey, Cell,
as
thanks for the host.
as exhibited right now. All right, but we can talk about Ampere in the form of something a bit more interesting, which is the rumored RTX 3080 Ti. This is strictly rumor based, guys. So fatty grain of salt here. Although this is the confirmed image of the 3080 Ti, it's going to look exactly like this that you see in the picture here. No, I'm joking, of
Welcome,
course.
welcome, Cell. Cell has joined us.
Hi, Cell. We love you. Thank you for being here. But yeah, there's quite a few details here that we should discuss, if they are at all true. So most of this info, if not all of it, comes from the YouTube channel Moore's Law is Dead, which I've maybe heard of him before, but I'm not too familiar with his content or how reliable any of his other rumors in the past might have been. But at any rate, you should be cautious to believe everything that you're about to hear. With that said, the Ampere architecture is proposedly going to deliver higher clock speeds and IPC than Turing,
So you're saying
which
this might not be the actual design of the 3080 Ti that we're looking at right here?
I really do not think it is.
Because
Um,
it looks pretty in line with Nvidia's past work, you know.
it certainly does. It certainly does. But it kind of just looks like someone photoshopped one half of the card onto the card and called it a day. Plus, if you consider how long the existing Founders Edition cards are, that would mean that this card's at least like 16 inches long.
Yeah, which I mean,
Which
obviously Nvidia's got
compatibility.
the market share now that they can push for that sort of a change in standards, to accommodate. But they're keeping it to a 2 slot card though. I think is the important thing that we should focus on here. It looks like they're staying with 2 slots.
So
which
what you're
means
saying is Nvidia values length over girth.
to some extent, yeah, it would seem, but also it seems like they're preparing this for SLI configurations.
Yes,
It's a two-slot spacing. Obviously, the only reason they would need to go for something like that would be if they're going to go for three-way and four-way SLI again. So I think
of
we can
course.
confirm, based on this image alone, that three-way and four-way SLI are now going to have full support from NVIDIA as well as all of their software partners who develop games and stuff like that. Right? Can that
That's right. That's right.
that's
And
that's where
every
you were going with this?
yes, that actually leads me into my next the next article is that next year all the cases will be Cosmos 2s to accommodate these graphics cards.
Oh, that's very forward-looking of Cooler Master to have
That's right.
developed that case.
That's right.
Anyway,
So start making room on your desk now, people. But this is to be expected, I guess, to see higher core clocks and an IPC with a new architecture. If you're shrinking that node, then things like that can happen. This is potentially going to result in a core clock frequency for the RTX 3080 Ti that's going to top 2.2 gigahertz. That's insanely fast. We've seen over 2.1 gigahertz on Turing with some of the higher end cards. This is just a new threshold that, if it's true, would be pretty cool, and should lead to higher performance along with the higher IPC. The RTX 3080 Ti is supposed to be delivering a 40% boost in rasterization performance versus the RTX 2080 Ti in unfavorable games, meaning that higher gains could be possible in other titles, particularly those with ray tracing support. The RTX 3080 Ti will feature 18 gigabits per second of GDDR6 memory, compared to the RTX 2080 Ti's 14 gigabits per second GDDR6 memory modules, and that's a fairly big boost. It's like a 29% increase in memory bandwidth, though. The RTX 3080 Ti is supposed to have 12 gigabytes of frame buffer over a 384-bit memory bus, offering an extra 32-bit memory channel over its predecessor. This total combined, along with everything else, would result in a 40% increase in overall memory bandwidth compared to the RTX 2080 Ti, which is pretty remarkable. Again, if it's true. Some hardware details for the alleged RTX 3080 Ti, presumably the Founders Edition card, is that it's going to have a triple fan design, as noted in the super authentic leaked picture that we saw earlier.
we're
And
we're still seeing that picture, by the way, Kyle. You still haven't changed scenes.
yes, I guess you can. Well, this is the YouTube video from Moore's Law is Dead, where he's actually talking about all the things we're talking about. Nothing super visually interesting there. So I guess we'll just go back up to here, or we can go back to our faces. Want to do our faces?
I
How do
mean,
you usually do it? Do you like if we're just talking about stuff? Do you go to
you,
our faces?
I always forget you
Walk
also
me through
you
it.
also never go and watch back the live show. So
That
usually
is true.
when we begin talking about a story, I'll show the story, and
Yeah,
then I usually only stay on it for not too long, maybe 10 to 15 seconds, unless there's like a video that's being shown or I'm like indicating something with the mouse cursor or something like that.
gotcha.
Um, but yeah, I usually stay on the shot of both of us, full screen, because
Okay,
that's what people want to see, right?
gotta give them what they want.
Gotta
All right.
give the fans what they want.
Um, so apart from a triple fan design, the card's supposed to have dual 8-pin power inputs, and the rear I/O is going to have three DisplayPort ports, one HDMI 2.1, and a USB Type-C for Virtual Link, including VR headsets. Supposed to have significantly better ray tracing performance than an RTX 2080 Ti, with 2 times the increase in tensor cores per SM, giving Ampere a 2x boost in AI performance. That's pretty huge and should potentially help push forward AI-based technologies like DLSS and the more recent RTX voice, which is exciting. The RTX suite of technologies, I'm sure a lot of people will be happy about this, will be available from top to bottom of the Ampere stack. So not just RTX tech won't just be reserved for the higher end GPUs that are more expensive, but As long as you're buying an Ampere GPU, you'll allegedly be able to take advantage and leverage things like ray tracing, DLSS 2.0, or I guess at that point it might be DLSS 3.0. So this would also solidify the future of ray tracing in PC games. Obviously, more developers are going to be more interested in ray tracing, offering support for it if they know that a wider market is going to be able to leverage that technology. So Nvidia is trying to release the first Ampere GPUs before AMD launches their next generation of RDNA 2 GPUs. So it's kind of a race at this point. I guess Nvidia would like to launch the Ampere GPUs first so that they can steal some more of the market share before consumers have an opportunity to even buy the AMD chips or the AMD cards. But we'll just have to wait and see exactly when these cards launch. But it is exciting. It is exciting. I do hope that it comes soon. But at the same time, does it really matter if the RTX 3080 Ti is going to be ridiculously expensive, just like the RTX 2080 Ti is? Which leads us to our next straw poll for this article, and that is
I also have a question about the
yes,
story. If
of
the
course.
Moore's Law is dead guy, does he say at all like where the information is sourced from or where he got it?
It's a 31-minute video, so I didn't have a chance to really go through it all. I mean, he might have said it towards the beginning, um,
Okay,
but I
just
don't know. I
just
just
checking.
don't know. Yeah, I
There's
didn't. I didn't
definitely
actually get through enough of it.
anytime there's like a single source for information like this. I mean, it's like Kyle said at the beginning, it's a leak. It's not official information. It's a rumor, like grain of salt. And like those go different ways too. It could be someone trying to get more attention. It could be
Right.
someone who does have legitimate information. It could be someone who's trying to plant the seeds of information that is overblown or like that sets expectations too high for a product. We've seen that happen too. So
Right.
you should, anytime we talk about stories like this, you guys should hopefully keep all of those things in mind.
Yes.
That it may be any of those, so you can read the specs and be like, that would be cool if it was true. Um,
Yeah.
this doesn't seem, I don't know, 40% overall increase in bandwidth, various stuff like that. Uh, yeah, who knows for sure? But anyway, sorry, Kyle, go on.
Yeah. So basically, I was gonna wrap this article up by administering the poll in chat, which
Chat.
is
Oh,
how much
chat
do you
says he said it
guys?
was an Nvidia employee. Sorry to interrupt you again. Okay, go on.
Oh, okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you guys. Thank you, chat, for picking that up. And it's also worth saying that even some of the most reliable sources can be wrong. You know what I mean? Just because it's a super reliable source or straight from the horse's mouth, if it's not an official statement right out of the gate, then it's always subject to being false. But we'll keep our ear to the ground for more legitimate details moving forward. But that does lead us to our poll, which is how much do you even think the RTX 3080 Ti is going to cost? Knowing what we know now about the RTX 2080 Ti being in the $1,100-$1,200 range, what's the pricing going to look like for this GPU that's going to be shipping with even more power, even more capabilities, even more technology, with more AI potential and things like that? I I don't know, but go ahead and answer your best guess, and we will Paul and I will duke it out and try to figure out what you guys are thinking. Let's move on to our headline article for today, which is AMD. AMD is kind of they've been sort of on the chopping block lately. After they officially announced that Zen 3, their upcoming Zen 3 or Ryzen 4000 series processors, are not going to be supported on older 300 series and 400 series motherboards.
So here's where I would
And
switch scenes.
yes, thank you, Paul. I would have never switched scenes. I would have died never having switched to this scene.
Just
But here it is. This is an article from TechSpot, and you can sort of see a slide here that shows where AM4 support, socket AM4 support lies with AMD at the moment. And this is kind of big news because it's very controversial. Some people are totally fine with this. Other people are losing their minds. So it's definitely worth discussing here. Basically, if you're not up to date on what's going on here, AMD has confirmed that Zen 3 is not going to be supported on you know B350, X370, X470, or B450 motherboards. So as of now, only X570 and B550 are going to support these next generation of CPUs. And B550 is, of course, just around the corner. It's not quite released yet. This is not the same as uh, Zen 2 and its support with 300 series motherboards, for example. Um, or even 400 series motherboards. AMD gave add-in board partners the option to update their motherboards. AGESA code. I still have no idea how it's
Gisa.
pronounced. AGESA codes if they wanted to add support for the newer generation of chips. But due to competition and add-in board partners not wanting to look like the odd man out compared to their competitors, pretty much all of them added support for Zen 2. That's not the case with Zen 3. AMD is flat out saying there's not going to be any support on these older generation motherboards. So it's a totally different ball game here. Previously, AMD pretty much promised to maintain and support socket AM4 until 2020, and depending on how you interpret that, you know, do you think they meant
Well,
uh,
that's
the
where
beginning?
AMD can be some scrutiny can be applied there. And a few people in chat have already mentioned the Gamers Nexus video they posted on this today, which was quite good. I have watched that, and they made some very good points there. AMD did change their phrasing ever so slightly from through 2020 to until
Until,
2020,
yeah, big difference there.
which is a difference.
Yes,
So that's where you can point at what AMD has said in the past and be like, this seems like they are changing things from what they originally said.
right,
And then on the motherboard side of things, there's been a bit more promises made. Steve brought up MSI in particular with some of their
right,
motherboards saying these will support all AM4 based CPUs,
yeah,
which gave people the impression that any CPUs launching on AM4 would be supported there.
right,
So yeah, there's absolutely some legitimate criticism to be leveled, and in particular, there is a group of people, anyone who's maybe I'd say anyone who's invested in this platform, say in the past 3 to 6 months in particular,
yeah,
might be a little bit more pissed off. I've seen some people going way overboard with
totally.
how like, oh my, what a betrayal this is and everything. And I think there is people taking this way too far. I saw people saying like people bought 300 series motherboards with the expectation that it would support 4000 series, and I was like, are you freaking
No,
joking me? Like people
that's
bought an
ridiculous.
X370 with first gen AMD thinking like, yeah, this is going to be for 2000 and 3000 and 4000. All those other series weren't even talked about back then. AMD was
Exactly.
just getting Zen off the ground. It hadn't been proven.
Right,
They didn't even have a whole lot of support from motherboard manufacturers for it.
right,
Um, so yes, there. If you are in that group, I completely sympathize with you. In particular, if you've bought just in the past few months after 4000 series was talked about. If you knew that was on the horizon and you bought thinking like, all right, I got 3000 series now, and that's the other thing to mention. There are upgrade paths within 3000 series still that are perfectly legitimate. But if you bought that thinking like, and then when the next gen launches, I can go from my 1600 AF or my 30, I don't want to say 30, I guess, yeah, 3600 if you did the B450 3600 thing.
mm-hmm.
Um, so yeah, there's a fair amount of people who were thinking it would be nice to upgrade when I have that opportunity who now can't do that. I think the other thing that should be mentioned though is there's a much bigger jump, I feel like, going from first and second to third gen when it went from the 12 14 and 12 nanometer down to 7 than
Right,
there will be from Zen 2 to Zen 3, because Zen 3 is still 7 nanometer. It
right,
should be faster, but we don't know how much faster. So it's probably going to be a little bit more of a that like was a tick or a talk
a
from
talk.
Intel, when
No,
which
it'd be a tick. It'd
whichever
be a
that one
tick.
was. Yeah.
I
So
think the tick was the
it
smaller one.
So yes, there will be 4000 series CPUs that are better, but they're not going to suddenly have PCIe Gen 5 support or something like that you're missing out on. You'll
Right.
still be able to get PCIe Gen 4 with 300 series stuff. So
Yeah.
I think I think what Steve did a good job of in his video was talking about the reasons you might be upset, and they're legit. But then there's a lot of stuff that's been a little bit overblown, and he also did a good job of describing the reasons behind why this decision might have been made. And yes, one of
Mm-hmm.
those reasons might have been more motherboards will sell, maybe.
Sure.
But there are also legitimate reasons when it comes to backwards compatibility, the ROM support for the BIOS, and how much space there is. There are some boards that do have uh, 32 meg ROMs that could handle all of the CPUs, but not all of them have that. Anyway, so I think you had some more stuff to talk about though, Kyle.
Yeah. Definitely some people were not 100% buying what AMD was saying, like their reason or their excuse for why Zen 3 wouldn't be supported on these older boards, which like Paul said was that there's not enough room, there's not enough capacity that these boards have on hand for BIOS or for the BIOSes for BIOS profiles. And the article that I found from TechSpot, the author does mention that there's potentially ways to work around this. Apparently, he had
Author
even
Steve, by the
spoken.
way.
Oh, the author Steve.
Yes,
Oh,
we know
Steve.
him. Yeah,
Of course,
yeah.
Steve. Yeah, Steve's very good about this stuff. So Steve was basically talking to some of the ad board partners, and they had said that there were potential workarounds for this. For example, if there were, you could flash your BIOS, and the BIOS could basically ask you if you wanted to overwrite one profile support for another one, so that you would have new support for the latest generation of CPUs. That could be potentially arranged without much effort. It doesn't seem like this was a huge obstacle to overcome for AMD. The BIOS code thing doesn't seem like it's like a good enough reason for them to completely build a new platform. Um, and also that let's see, actual reason that could be higher performance does not properly work. Um, yeah, so basically, there's definitely arguments on both sides. I think that AMD not having communicated that X570 would be sort of the go-to platform if you wanted future CPU support was kind of a bummer, because I know that there's probably a lot of people who, when X570 came out, were looking at that board, that platform versus X470, and thinking, well, if the biggest difference between these two boards is, PCIe Gen 4 support, which most people don't really need, then a lot of people were trying to save a little bit of money going X470, maybe buying a used board. But had AMD notified people and said, hey, this newer platform is actually going to be able to support Zen 3 when it comes out, I think that a lot of people would have made vastly different purchasing decisions at that moment if they did plan to upgrade their CPU down the line. But then there's also the question of, well, did AMD even know that it would turn out this way? That, had they even begun testing Zen 3 on older 400 series boards to discover that um, they were they were either not compatible, or it was going to require too much support in order to make that compatibility happen, that they just didn't have the internal resources to manage. So there's a lot of unknowns. I think that's kind of what makes this also tricky to navigate. I haven't seen the Gamers Nexus video yet, but I'll definitely check that out to see what Steve was saying. But I think I'm kind of on the fence as well. I think there's a lot of overreaction. I think AMD could have also handled certain things about this announcement better. And I also, I'm thinking about it realistically, like the whole Zen architecture, like Ryzen as a whole, is such like it's like a phenomenon in the CPU market space. I think no one really saw it coming. I don't even think AMD really saw it coming, and I think they're still adjusting to this. I think they're going to go through some growing pains as to how they want to handle future launches around the Ryzen platform, and that it's going to take some time for them to sort of iron out. Like Intel's been doing the TikTok thing for ages now. Like they kind of already know how they're going to approach, their new platform launches. Yeah, it's probably not what we would want as consumers. It's not very consumer friendly, having to upgrade your platform every other year or whatever. But at least we know what to expect with Intel because they've been doing it this way for so long. Whereas I think AMD is right now, they're being challenged by having to carve out a new path for Ryzen that I think they're going to iron out a lot of things, and they're going to learn a lot of lessons from these next few launches. So I don't think, while this is kind of a weird way to do things currently with like the backwards compatibility, I don't think this is going to be a pattern that we're going to see repeat for future AMD launches, for future Ryzen launches. So hopefully we can just hopefully they'll learn something from this, and everything will be better
Yeah,
afterwards.
I was thinking like I have a feeling that this isn't something that AMD wanted to do. I just think there was enough like pointing it in this direction that they made that decision. Um, but like so if people are talking about like, oh well, next gen when they go to AM5, and when we're talking about like the next whatever the follow-up socket and platform is to AM4, are they suddenly going to switch to like Intel and only support a platform for a single generation or maybe two generations of CPUs? And I don't really see them going that far. I really hope they don't. I think if the people who have been making decisions there for the past 5 years are still there, they hopefully have seen the amount of love they've gotten for the longer term support, and probably even to counter that, the amount of negativity they've experienced when they finally have done something counter to that, with the B550 thing. Um, so hopefully that's like all of those things combined are enough to show them like, yes, people like having this upgrade path. People like seeing three generations at least of CPUs on a platform, so that they can do that if they want to and have the option. People like choices. Um,
Yeah,
so hopefully they'll continue that, and I'm hoping that Intel might be shifting that direction too. And yeah, I I I don't. I think AMD should have made more of an effort over the past, say, 3 to 6 months to talk about the possible lack of forward support on boards, so that people weren't buying B450 thinking they'd have two more generations of CPUs coming out
right.
on it. I personally, when I first heard about 4000 series still being AM4 and still being on this socket, if not still capable of being supported by the 300 and 400 series boards, I kind of thought like, wow, 4 generations. They're going further than I expected, and
Right.
I've been thinking of that kind of like as this bonus extra set of CPUs. Um, but yeah, anyone who's given the expectation of something and then had that taken away, they're going to be upset, and that's completely understandable. Um,
Yeah.
but
Although
yeah,
I don't think anyone who, like you said, like a lot of people who had purchased 300 series boards just throwing a fit. I mean,
I
I,
hope if you're on a
come
300
on,
series board, you're
you've got it
satisfied
good.
with the 3000 series CPUs. There's a lot of options there that are widely
Seriously,
supported.
I mean the fact that you could have
And
bought like like let's say a $120 B350 motherboard that now 3 years later you can drop in a 12 core 7 nanometer chip into. I mean that's like unprecedented. Like I think you kind of have to be realistic and be like, wow, that's actually pretty impressive. Obviously, there's some people that are just going to expect the moon. But I think AMD's done a really good job. I just think that the one area that they could have improved in, or that they need to improve in, is transparency and communication.
yeah,
Let people know what they're getting with each platform, so that you can temper expectations, and no one's shocked when you break out the news. It's already been upfront and talked about. And I think, like I said, I think AMD's going to do the right thing in the future. I have a feeling that they're not going to make the same mistake for future generations, future platforms. But
well,
like I said, it's growing
that's
pains.
not guaranteed.
Yeah, I mean it's not
Yeah.
guaranteed, but I have a feeling that they are going
If I
to
if I
learn
had to
something
if
from
I
this.
had to make a bet, I would bet on them doing another 3 to 4 generation thing with the next gen, and perhaps even learning a little bit from this experience, and building on top of the clout that they've gained. Because that was one of the things brought up in Steve's video. Because people are talking about the ROM support. Because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
motherboards that have 16 meg ROMs can't support enough, like there's not enough space on the ROM to include all the details about as many CPUs as will be available when if you're including 1000, 2000, 3000, and 4000 series. That's just a hard stop block of this being a universal thing that they can just say, yeah, it's compatible with everything. And anytime you can't say it's compatible across the board, you have to make a decision. Do you block compatibility, or do you make things more confusing? And making things more confusing is often something they want to avoid when things are confusing enough as it is, when you're like, oh, 3000 series APUs are actually 2000 series CPUs and all those other details in
Yeah.
between. But one of the things Steve brought up is back when they launched 1000 series and they had just come out of a long drought of AMD really sucking and not launching anything good, and the motherboard manufacturers not wanting to invest the R&D costs into developing boards for them. So none of these manufacturers who are in that situation are going to say like, hey, this completely new CPU that AMD is launching that we're making boards for, what if they have 4 different generations of CPUs on there? We better plan ahead for that with our X370 or B350 board. Um, that's there's no hope. That's they're not going to do that, and they weren't going to do that in that time. So that's
Right.
part of the reason. Again, um,
They do have that clout now.
yeah.
That's
And I
true.
I also appreciate all the comments in chat about my camera. I'm kind of enjoying it now.
What about it being blurry?
Just every fifth or sixth comment seems to be how blurry and awful my camera is, which is great. I like it. Thank you.
maybe
Okay.
maybe it's time to upgrade the rip saw
I just
if that's
so
what's causing the issue.
so if you guys want to know, I tried several of my other camera setups. I'm not connected to Kyle from the streaming PC. Anyway, the Ripsaw is trying to send a 1080 signal to Hangouts, which is what we're using to talk to each other. Hangouts only goes up to 720, I think. So Hangouts is like, hey Ripsaw, give me a 720 signal, and the Ripsaw is only going to pass through whatever signal my cameras give it, and my cameras only go down to 1080. So my cameras are too nice for Hangouts. Is what this boils down to, and I didn't have enough time to figure it out. So we're using a Logitech C920 webcam, and that's why I'm blurry.
It's
Okay.
funny how the fact that you only own really good cameras has resulted in lower
I
quality.
know my camera setups are too nice. So yeah,
So it looks like crap.
I was thinking about if I had more time to do this, how I could do it. It's like if I brought in another computer, I could stream, or if I brought in another computer, I could connect the Ripsaw to that and pull up like OBS with my video feed, and then send that to the Ripsaw at 720. Like set the resolution on
Oh
that
my
computer to
god.
720, right? That would
That's
work. I think
that's
that would work.
so much more
Anyway,
trouble than it's
that
worth
would be
probably.
a little complicated. Maybe we should
Do it for the
just
fans, Paul.
maybe we should just choose a video chat software that isn't like end of life and that Google's trying to kill.
That's a great idea
I
actually.
like I like Hangouts though.
Me too.
Anyway,
Simple. Stupid Skype. All right.
not Zoom. No Zoom. Okay,
No
sorry.
zooms. But I guess we'll finish this article off by administering another straw poll in chat, which is how do you guys personally feel about this whole AMD situation of Zen 3 not being compatible with older series motherboards? Let us know how you feel about it, and we will discuss it in just a moment. Moving on to another article about AMD, though.
Oh,
This is
Kyle, I
from
thought of something.
what?
Did you change the video? Because on your Hangouts, you can go in the settings and there's a 360 option and a 720 option. Did you change that?
Bandwidth. It says outgoing and incoming video is both set to 720p.
Oh, okay. Then yeah, it's just really sucks. It's also like probably an old C720. I have 3 of them,
Ah.
and I know one of them is really old and sucks a little bit more, and that's probably the one that I grabbed. That's
Oh,
from
that's funny. The chat can. I actually showed that on stream. There's proof right there. Then
uh
720, 720p.
well,
Well,
doing our best. We're doing our best.
yes, that's all they can ask for. So this article from VideoCards.com is about AMD Renoir, the new Renoir CPUs for desktops potentially. Again, grain of salt here because this is rumor based as well. And we've already seen AMD Renoir CPUs for mobile devices, but now a Ryzen 7 4700G desktop APU with 8 cores and 16 threads has been spotted
Ooh,
on the Ashes of the Singularity website. Good old Ashes.
well,
Thanks for the leaks.
that's
Unplug your
fun.
Ethernet cable, person.
I know.
No, if they did, we wouldn't have this article to talk about, so thank you. This is double the core and thread count of the existing Ryzen 5 3400G APU, but it is rumored to have fewer graphics cores or compute units, which is just 8. Just 8 of those compute units. We're expecting a 65 watt TDP chip here with a 35 watt TDP Ryzen 4700GE to follow. This is potentially going to offer, both of these chips are potentially going to offer higher boost clocks or faster GPU cores than Renoir Mobile, and that's assuming if any of these leaks are to be believed. How powerful the iGPU is on the 4700G will sort of determine how these chips are being used. Will people be able to game comfortably on these at 720p, 30 or even 60 FPS, or is this going to be more of like just a backup GPU that people use for troubleshooting? Which I could see it going either way.
Or for anyone who just wants to build a rendering box or something like that that needs 8 cores and 16 threads, but doesn't want to invest in a discrete graphics card for video outs,
Mm-hmm.
can
That's
get
true.
by.
A server maybe might be good to have it for a server. So yeah, I guess the big question here is what's the pricing going to be on this 8-core Ryzen APU, and also how fast is this chip going to be? If it's competing with, say, a Ryzen 7 3700X, are the core clock speeds and the IPC going to be similar on par? So that sort of led me to creating this straw poll, which is, what are your thoughts on having an iGPU in a high-end Ryzen chip? Because that's one thing that the vast majority of Ryzen chips lack is integrated graphics. And for most people, I would say for a good chunk of people, that they don't care. But I know there's a lot of people like myself who really values having an iGPU in there for things like troubleshooting primarily. I mean, Paul and I do a lot of testing. A lot of reviewers do, obviously. It's nice to have, but even if you're not, a reviewer, I think it's pretty valuable to have that backup GPU that you can kind of just switch between in the BIOS, not having to like swap out an entirely new discrete graphics card when you're just trying to troubleshoot things, figure out if you are getting a video signal, if there's something wrong with your discrete graphics card. It just makes it really easy to sort of narrow down certain issues that are graphic related that you currently just can't do with a lot of these Ryzen chips. So that's sort of what the straw poll is regarding, what it's asking you guys about. So go ahead and check that out, and Paul and I will discuss more of this once we get to the Ask the Audience section.
I was
Um,
gonna say this would be a perfect upgrade for my home surveillance PC system that I just did
mm,
that mod on recently this past week.
is that the one in the Sentry, the
Yeah, it's
Dr.
in the
Saber?
Sentry. I cut a hole in the side.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that's
but
cool.
yeah, like that's got a quad core, and if I'm running ContiCam, it's doing video processing on the CPU, so it actually does need a decent amount of CPU horsepower. So that'd be a
Yeah.
great upgrade for the 4000 series. I just have a B450i Gigabyte board in there, but oh no, B450 won't support 4000
You
series.
won't have support for
I hate AMD.
it.
AMD is the
To
worst
hell with
company.
them.
Screw them for blocking me from upgrading
Hang them.
my surveillance camera PC. Actually, it's possible it might have support though, because if this is a 4700G, it might still be
Oh yeah,
Zen
or
Zen 2 in
Zen
there.
2.
So
Right.
no, but it wouldn't because it's still
It's still 4000
it
series, but
probably won't be necessary. I mean, it probably won't be compatible because yeah, I guess I am screwed. Totally
so
screwed.
do you have a discrete GPU in that system right now, or you just
No,
you got a
I'm just running off
3400G?
of it's a 3400G, so it's
Okay.
the quad core,
Yeah.
and it's doing fine. But I have more cameras to add to the setup. Uh, but yeah, no, I'm probably blocked there from using this chip if it does actually exist and everything is as they say it is. Because even if it was Zen 2 under the hood, it still is an extra CPU to add to the BIOS list,
Yeah.
and that might not be something that Gigabyte is able to add in there. So I
If
probably would need to
only,
swap out the
if
motherboard.
only you had easy access to computer hardware and could
Yeah.
find a compatible motherboard to support that CPU.
No, I probably can just get a replacement motherboard for it without very much difficulty, but that doesn't change my sympathy and my understanding of the frustration for anyone who is thinking like, ooh, that 4000 series thing that they were talking about, that sounds nice. Wouldn't it be nice to just do that upgrade? And now you're like, fuck, I got to build a new computer for that.
Yes.
I understand.
Thank you for,
I
you
understand.
know, making our adult language warning not in vain.
Yeah, it was completely. See, I try not to curse unless it's necessary, and that made me drop an
Right.
f bomb there. So that's just it's just me
That's
being
right.
honest,
And
straightforward
I,
with
and
you.
I and I don't like giving like warnings for things that don't really need warning. So had we not cursed for the rest of the stream, I'd be like, well, why the fuck did we
What a
give that
waste!
warning in the
What a
beginning?
waste of
What a
warning. I know.
waste seconds off my life. I'll never get those back. But yeah, keep your eyes on those AMD Renoir CPUs. They might
Seen
be
seen
pretty
change.
interesting. Yeah. Let's talk about our last article here, which is from Tweaktown. Our good friend Anthony has written this one up.
Oh,
But the news has been going around on other sites as well. This is about Intel's new Core i9-10900K, which is allegedly running at over 90 degrees Celsius,
oh,
even with liquid cooling. Yikes. These test results were leaked by Weibo user Wolfstame. So Weibo user Wolfstame was doing some testing with his Core i9-10900K. Bear in mind, this is all, rumor, so grain of salt. But he was basically testing this 10-core, 20-thread CPU at 4.8 gigahertz on all core. So it was an all core overclock to 4.8 gigahertz, and it hit a max temperature of 93 degrees Celsius while being cooled by a pretty decent 240 millimeter liquid AIO
did you switch the
cooler.
anything?
Oh shit. Son of a bitch.
Okay,
Hold on.
at least switch to the right article. That'd be fine.
There.
Okay,
There. Okay. So
cool.
look. Now you get to see all the ads on
I'm
Tweaktown.
trying. I'm trying to monitor you guys, but I am
This is
watching the
good.
delayed Twitch stream, which does seem to be a good 20, 30 seconds delayed right now. Oh, Hero's shedding so much.
He's shitting? Why is he
Shed,
shitting?
shedding.
Oh, okay. I was like, dude, you should take a minute.
No,
That's a
he's.
lot of hair.
Yeah. Oh, you saw that?
Yeah. I saw it. Wait, hold it up again.
No, I
Or did you
dropped
already
it. I
you already
gotta.
dropped it. That was a
It's
fistful
fine.
of hair right
It's
there.
fine.
Looked like you decapitated Jensen for a second, all that gray hair.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so what's going on here? At 4.8 gigahertz, this 10900K was reaching 93 degrees Celsius with a 240 millimeter liquid AIO.
Hmm.
That's just crazy. Here's a screenshot. You can see it's really tiny there, but you can see the figures. 93C, and it looks like he's using AIDA64. The
1% throttling detected.
one, yes, we are. It's not a lot of throttling, but it is throttling just ever
Hmm.
so slightly under the FPU stress test in AIDA64. What's
Okay.
equally concerning is the amount of wattage that this thing is pulling from the wall. The CPU alone, under full load, peaked at 235 watts. And remember, this is a 125 watt TDP chip on paper.
Yeah.
So prepare to make sure you have a good solid power supply with if you're going to be going this route with the 10th gen, because if you've got a heavy duty GPU pairing that you're pairing with this, you're gonna need some power to make sure that everything's nice and stable.
Kyle,
Looks yes,
right click on the image
yes.
and go
View
to
image.
open image and new tab.
I can view image. Open link in new tab or
Open
open image.
image and new tab.
I see view image, but not view image in new tab.
Really?
There. This.
Yeah. Did that work? I'm
It did
watching the delayed stream again. Anyway,
mostly.
then people can see it a little bit bigger. So
You can see a little bit here.
if I may be so bold here as to speak in defense of Intel, and this is assuming that a this is legitimate, like this is an actual screenshot and everything's legit here. So what we're looking at is an extended all-core synthetic burn test. So they're just running the FPU test on there. So we're only seeing 1% CPU throttling, which means it's hitting TDP max, but then it is immediately dialing itself back. So that's not a lot of CPU throttling. I would say this could potentially be viewed as a testament to the 10900K's capabilities when it comes to overclocking itself to within the range of thermal limits. As you can see on the hardware info display over there, it's running at 88C. 93 was the peak, at which point it caused it to throttle. It's also been running IDA 64 for 47 minutes and 41 seconds. So we're looking at a completely saturated 240 watt AIO. And we're looking at a CPU that is only supposed to boost to 5.3 gigahertz, I believe, on one or two cores. So
Right.
we're running at 4.7 or pretty much
4.8.
4.8 uh, on a test like this after so long. I don't think is necessarily horrible for a 10 core. I don't know. I mean, obviously, what you're going to need to do is compare this to the 3900X and 3950X with like the same cooler and all that. But those chips output a lot of heat too, with as many cores and threads as they have. So anyway, I'm just saying this is an interesting screenshot to look at for sure. But I don't think this necessarily would immediately make me use the headline that Anthony used here.
Sure.
Hot or the hot with the sub headline or whatever. Um, you can easily make a 3900X or a 3950X go over 90C with okay cooling. Yeah, the wattage, the power draw definitely is something that the Intel well should be scrutinized on, and yeah, so that's definitely something. All those are factors of what make a really good CPU. If they can maintain the high frequency across a bunch of cores and draw a reasonable amount of wattage and not get super hot, that's your ideal CPU. It's just a matter of with whatever testing setup you happen to be using is how the CPU is behaving. So this is interesting to look at for sure. Again, assuming it's legitimate. I can't see anything about it that would make me think it's not. Um, but yeah,
I do think that it somewhat shows that Intel doesn't have much, doesn't can't really pull out the defibrillators and continue trying to resuscitate 14 nanometer for much longer. It's pretty much hit a ceiling, I think, at this point when it does come to either if it's not thermals, it's definitely power consumption or power efficiency. And there's only so much they can squeeze out of this thing for so many years before they just have to shrink the process node one way or another. I mean, they're running out of pluses. The whoever's in charge of handing out pluses is like Intel. You don't get many more of these.
mm-hmm.
So it's getting a little crazy, but they're doing what they have to. I do think that further testing will be required. Actual reviews. Don't let this sway your decision just yet, one way or another. Wait for actual reviews as always to see just how these chips perform. But this also kind of brings up a point as to you know, who exactly is going to be able to leverage Intel's new thermal velocity boost, which
Yeah.
they've been touting as a pretty sweet feature with the new 10th gen. But that's only going to be available. It's only going to boost one or two cores, assuming that your chip is running under 70 degrees Celsius. And even if you look at the screenshot, I mean, yeah, it's a stress test and all, but I think the average temp is like 87 or something like that. 87C is the average, which is well over 70, obviously, and there's no way in hell that this chip is going to be able to take advantage of thermal velocity boost. And thermal velocity boost isn't even available on every 10th gen CPU, it's only available on the more premium chips. So, what kind of cooling solution are you even going to need to have in order to take advantage of one of the technologies that Intel is advertising the loudest for their flagship parts? It's kind of interesting.
That is correct. And as people in chat are pointing out, and as you're pointing out, these are the reasons why I think there's less enthusiasm for this platform and this launch and this series of CPUs is because they're hitting a lot of walls when it comes to still being on 14 nanometer. Um, So yeah, you guys are right. If it's running this hot stock at stock settings, that's a little bit concerning. I would counter that again if I'm just trying to speak on behalf of Intel, or like I'm just trying to take Intel's side for the sake of argument, is what I'm trying
Sure.
to say. Um, I would say that if you look at AMD's chips and how they've been behaving, they tend to overclock themselves and run warmer too, if you give them that opportunity. Uh, anyway, that's not a very good argument. What I'm trying to say here is what I really wanted to say is, like I said, I think the capabilities of this chip when it comes to keeping itself from not overheating while still running at a high frequency, limiting that thermal throttling to 1%. If Intel could take all of this that they have with their 14 nanometer chips and translate it to 7 nanometer, I think we would have insane competition for AMD. And I think that would be good for everyone. So I hope that happens. I'm not expecting it anytime soon, unfortunately, because it looks like we still have Rocket Lake yet to come out for this platform, which is still going to be 14 nanometer yet again. Um, but yeah, we'll see what AMD does in the interim. And yeah, like again, there's a lot of things that Intel has done with their CPU development that works really well. I don't have a good explanation for why they failed so hard at getting off of 14 nanometer, but taking all of that stuff that they do really really well and translating it down to 7 nanometer or 5 nanometer or something like that, I would be excited to see what those CPUs would be able to do. And it's
Definitely.
kind of interesting if you go back 3 years to now, like how you have to talk about Intel now as the underdog, compared to AMD. I think that's kind of cool. But
Oh, how the tables have turned.
but I think it will benefit everyone if there is healthy competition between the two, rather than having one company dominate and the other one lagging behind, whether it's Intel or AMD doing either of those.
Right. Yeah, I don't think anyone should enjoy watching Intel struggle right now. You should never watch one of the competitors struggle because
Unless you're an
I,
AMD employee from in the mid 2000s, then you're.
sweet, sweet vengeance,
No, I
right?
don't want to. I don't want to. Sorry, I don't want to go back dig up the.
It's too much history, Paul.
Yeah, there's a lot of history.
Too much drama. But yes, competition is good. I hope Intel steps it up and they can migrate away from 14 nanometers soon for the betterment of all of us, truly.
Mm-hmm.
But that also leads us to our last poll, which is what kind of cooling do you think users will need to hit an all-core overclock of 5.3 gigahertz on the 10900K? What we're seeing here is just 4.8 gigahertz on a 240 millimeter liquid AIO. What kind of cooling do you think you'd need to hit 5.3 gigahertz on all 10 cores? Answer that to the best of your ability, and answer it soon because we're moving on to the straw polls right meow. We've
Yay!
asked the audience. This is where we actually take a look at all of your results from the straw polls we've just administered throughout the show, and Paul and I will sort of give our 2 cents on what we think you guys have voted on. The strongest and most popular opinions of the chat, and whoever loses for each straw poll must take a drink, must take a sip of their adult beverage. Sound fair?
Yes, horrible punishments going along with this segment.
Absolutely. Let's talk about our first poll here, which is from article number 1. For the RTX 3080 Ti teaser, Jensen should reveal the card by pulling it out of a dishwasher, changing a light bulb with it, using it as a weed whacker.
You changed scenes, right? So
I
people can see
did.
this. Okay.
I'm on it. I'm getting
Okay.
better, Paul.
Good.
I'm
That's
learning.
good.
Using it as a weed whacker, strapping it to his face as PPE,
Mm.
using it as a turntable to play a sick DJ set, or
Ah.
using two of them as crutches. Paul,
Okay.
what do you think? What's the best way that they're going to come out of the gate with RTX 3080 Ti?
I think if they wanted to, if they're going for the flashy thing that would also look cool, and I know Jensen always does appreciate looking cool, the turntable to play a sick DJ set. I think.
Mm,
I mean, that's the way I go. Also, it would show the versatile capabilities of the new graphics card,
that's true.
and
You
then you could
know,
use RTX voice to mute the crowd. or something. I don't know. Uh,
That's a good idea.
you got possibilities there.
They would have to give superimpose like CGI Jensen a third arm, since the graphics card would have three fans on it.
Hmm.
He'd have to be spinning all three of them at the same time. Um, but that's a good one, Paul. I'm gonna say uh, using it as a weed whacker. I like the idea of Jensen just playing the role of the simple man out there in his own backyard trimming weeds with this massive graphics card that hopefully the fan closest to him would have a fan grill on it
And
so he
now
wouldn't nick himself.
in your head, is the weed whacker like, is the GPU down at the bottom spinning around cutting the weeds, or is the GPU like up at the top as the engine, like the beefy part of the weed whacker? I
So
just
I kind of imagined him with like I kind of imagined like a bite-sized Jensen where like
okay. What is
where
Jens?
the GPU is about the same size. It's like an enlarged GPU that's about the size of an actual weed whacker, and he's just kind of like taking it to the edges. He's like trimming the hedges and stuff with it,
So
and
it's like
like
a
one of the fans is just going crazy, tearing
oh,
shit
okay. So
up.
there's a big GPU, and then somehow one of the fans.
Yeah, one of the fans would be the blades of the fan would be what's cutting the weeds.
What if there's a big GPU, and then it had like a smaller version of the GPU at the bottom of the GPU that spins around, and that is what
Ooh,
whacks the weeds.
like a twin turbo GPU whacker. The possibilities are endless here.
I really hope Nvidia marketing team is watching this because this is gold. This
Yeah, I know. You can have these for free,
they
Nvidia.
should really be going for all these.
Thank us later. All right, let's see. Let's see what you guys thought, and let's see if Paul and I were right on the money. Oh wait, I must select an option. That's right. Well, I'm
You
obviously
can
gonna
just click
select
results.
mine.
You don't have to
Oh
choose.
yeah, shit. Oh my god, forgot. There's a results button there. Wow, PPE got number one.
Dang.
Dang, followed by using two of them as crutches. I thought that was my second pick.
Yeah.
But it looks like I did beat you out there
You did
slightly,
win.
Paul.
Did
Using
win.
that as a weed whacker.
Well done.
17% of the votes versus 16. You were right behind me though.
I accepted
Um,
my punishment.
yes, absolutely. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go, Nvidia.
Good to know.
Take notes. Take notes, my friends. All right, let's take a look at our second poll here, which is what do you think the RTX 3080 Ti will cost? The first option is the same as the RTX 2080 Ti, around $1,000. Ha ha ha! Sorry, I can't say that without laughing. Between $1,300 and $1,400, between $1,400 and $1,500, between $1,500 and $1,800, or upwards of $2,000. Bear in
I,
mind, we didn't expect a $1,000 graphics card to exist anytime soon when it did.
yeah. I really like your first answer, so
Yes,
I think that one might win just because it's a good answer. Um,
possibly.
I'm gonna s- I'm gonna say 13 to 1400 just because I don't know. It's like a markup, but at
But still kind of reasonable.
but now I'm
How do
second
you even?
guessing. No, not reasonable. It's not reasonable. It's just like I feel like since they did catch some flack from the price of the RTX 2080 Ti. Although honestly, I think Nvidia cares a lot more about the sales than the people bitching about the price.
Yeah,
And if the sales are there, which I think clearly they are since the prices are still the same,
yeah,
then maybe they don't care. But
right,
if they do care, then they probably would increase the price, but just a little
right,
bit. So that's
right.
that's your 1300 to 1400.
All right. I'm going to say I would like to pick the first one too, but since that's sort of the cop out answer, I'm going to go between 1400 and 1500. I
Yeah.
feel like if, an RTX 2080 Ti is going for 1200 bucks or whatever, and some of them are going for even more than that, 1300 for some of the higher end fancy ones.
Oh yeah.
I could easily see 1500 being, the average price for one of these new flagships, especially because once you start getting upwards of like $1,000 plus, an extra 200-300 bucks isn't quite that much, compared to
That's
how it is.
exactly what they want you to think, Kyle. That's
Exactly.
exactly what
Trust
they
me,
want
I
you to
know.
think. Like, oh.
that I know what they're thinking.
Hmm.
So that's what I would say. 14 to 15. Paul's gonna say 13 to 14. You guys said
Oh,
Paul wins this
I was
one.
so
Paul
close.
wins this one.
It was
13
close.
to 14 is what it is, and you even beat out the cop out answer. So congrats to you, Paul.
Yay.
Good job on that, and I'm gonna man up.
My prescience is legendary.
I did get third place though, so not too far off. All right. All right, on our next poll here, we were talking about AMD and its compatibility issues with Zen 3. How do you guys feel about AMD in regards to Zen 3 chips not being supported on 300 and 400 series motherboards? And this is sort of a poll that's been floating around. I'm kind of borrowing this from other people in the industry. Like I know Gamers Nexus did a similar poll. I believe maybe Hardware Unboxed did as well. But at any rate, it's a pretty basic poll. But I just kind of want to see where you guys are at. So, are you upset? Could you care less? Or you're somewhere in between where it's not the best thing, but you're not going to lose any sleep over it. Paul, what do you think?
What if someone wanted to be more than upset? What if someone wanted to be like livid
I'm furious.
or apoplectic or one of those fun words that you say when you want to be really
Apoplectic.
mad,
I'm
really 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 mad.
I'm
Um,
irate pissed.
all right, so we're just trying to pick the winner.
Yes.
I'm gonna say unfortunate, but not losing any sleep over it.
Yeah.
I understand and sympathize with the people who are particularly upset if you have got that 400 series, setup that you were like, man, that'd be really cool to upgrade to 4000 series CPU. But yeah, I also might have looked at the Gamers Nexus poll at some point, and I think that was the winner for that one too. So,
Yeah. So
there
I
you
think I think
go.
I think it was by a landslide, right? So how about we switch things up a little bit here, Paul? Between I'm upset and I could care less, which of the
Okay.
two do you think is the higher one?
I think could care less will be higher. Just
Yeah.
because I think there's more people watching who aren't in that situation than people who are particularly are.
Right. Okay. So I guess that leaves me with, if we're excluding the third answer, I'm going to say I'm upset. Oops. Let me uncheck that. How do you uncheck it? Oh, I'm just going to click results. Doesn't matter. All right. I'm going to go with I'm upset. And it looks like Paul wins this one as well.
I win.
But obviously, the vast majority of you are sort of on the fence where it's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world. And I think that's kind of where Paul and I lie too. So cheers. Cheers.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks. Thanks for making me
I'm gonna
drink
take a
this.
drink as well on behalf of the I'm upset people.
Of course. One for the homies. Moving on to our next poll here. How would you feel if the Ryzen 3700X had a variant with an iGPU that cost a little bit more? Maybe 15 to 20 bucks more, assuming that you already have a good discrete GPU. So this question is sort of phrased from the perspective of how much do you value having an integrated graphics chip, having integrated graphics primarily for the purpose of basic troubleshooting, because it's something that I've found comes in handy over the years. And if I have the option to have an iGPU or not, I generally go for it. Of course, if there's a little premium, then that could change things depending on how much that premium is. Hypothetically, we've gone with a $15 to $20 hike here. So, what do you guys think? Is it not worth the extra cost? Just get the non iGPU model, or are you pro iGPU here, and it's gonna be worth every penny here to be able to troubleshoot in that capacity. I'm gonna say I'm just gonna go with what my genuine answer would be, which is having the iGPU for troubleshooting is totally worth the slight premium. 15
Huh.
20 bucks, on a $300 chip. Yeah, why not? It's gonna come in. I'm gonna use it at some point, at one point or another. It's much less of a hassle than having to swap out the graphics card for another one for another discrete GPU if I am trying to troubleshoot, which not everyone has two GPUs lying around. So bear that in mind as well. Paul,
I think you're
thoughts?
wrong. I think you're wrong, and I
Yep.
choose the other answer
Yep.
because whereas I completely appreciate and agree with the people who are saying that this is super cool and they like it, like Kips said for virtualization builds and stuff like that. Anything that's CPU intensive that needs a lot of CPU horsepower but doesn't necessarily need a discrete GPU. I think it will be awesome for those people, but I think most people who are building their own PC are doing it for gaming. And I think most people who are building their own PC for gaming and are investing in something like a 3700X absolutely have a discrete graphics card and will get pretty much no use out of the iGPU. I'm glad it's there and available, but I think for most people, I just think there's going to be a smaller market for it. That's all.
What if those gamers are also part-time content creators who could also potentially leverage the integrated graphics for encoding and things like that?
I don't know. The Radeon encoder is like adequate, but Nvidia one blows it away, and anyone who's doing that, I think, would just encode on their GPU if they're going to go for something like that. Um, it would be a cool solution for like a separate streaming rig, possibly, if you're going to stream with the X264.
So that
Uh, that
that's
that
actually
yeah,
a
that might
huge
be
thing
cool
for
too.
me. Is when I built the dual system,
Yeah.
um, the streaming PC inside of the Fantex. It was the Lux 2, but then they changed it to the 719 because of all that stupid legal shit with Thermaltake, I think it was.
Mm-hmm.
But when I built that system, I was like, crap. I wanted to use Ryzen for both the main system, the gaming system, and the streaming PC. But I had to use a 9900K. I know, first world problems. Had to use a 9900K for the mini ITX build for the streaming PC because it had the integrated graphics chip in it, whereas the Ryzen one didn't. And it's just, I like options. If you
Mm-hmm.
give me options, I will say yes to options as opposed to no options. But obviously, that's a very more of a niche scenario. So let's see what you guys thought.
Well, real quick,
Oh,
I had a similar
yes.
situation with Riptide, and I
Uh
haven't
huh.
looked into the other options now, but I wanted to use ECC memory, and for that you need a Ryzen Pro processor, and there's no
Mm.
Ryzen. There were, at least at the time, there were no Ryzen Pro APUs, and
Mm-hmm.
I needed the PCI Express slot to add a second M.2 card to the system. So I couldn't go with the discrete GPU, so I had to just use an APU,
Yep.
yada yada. So yeah, like I said, I think there's definitely uses for this setup. I'm glad they're building it, but actually, I
Yeah.
think it makes sense that it has less or less graphics horsepower than like the entry level APUs, because
Right.
I think people who are buying it aren't going to be buying it to game on the iGPU.
Exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
results.
Results: having the iGPU for troubleshooting is totally worth a slight premium. All
Okay,
right,
never mind.
cool.
I'm wrong. I
About
lose.
roughly 2/3 of you have voted in favor of the iGPU for maybe a 5 to 10% price hike. That's not too bad, and I'm with you. So
All right.
cheers.
I drink.
Good to know where you guys stand. Paul loses that one, and we have our final straw poll of the day, which is what will it take to properly cool a Core i9 10900K overclocked on all cores to 5.3 gigahertz. Is it
Hmm.
a decent 240 millimeter AIO, a 360 millimeter AIO? You'll need a custom loop, LN2, or an ice cold Bud Light. The coldest of things that are on this list.
That would be super chilly. Well, obviously not the 240 millimeter AIO, because
Sure.
from the picture we saw, which is definitely true and accurate, or maybe completely made up,
Right.
that's not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So 360 AIO was what the 9900K went with,
Mm-hmm.
but the 9900K is 8 cores and this is 10 cores.
Right.
So I guess custom loop. Okay, custom loop.
Okay. Paul's going to say a custom loop will be adequate for this setup here. I'm going to say, I mean, ice cold Bud Light is probably the cop out answer here that most people are going to vote.
Oh,
So I'm going to say,
I didn't read the question properly.
oh, how
But
did you
it's
read
a
it?
I was just thinking, what will it take to properly cool a 10900K? I didn't necessarily. I
Oh,
for some reason didn't see overclock to all cores to
yes.
5.3 gigahertz. Who knows though? Maybe a custom loop would be enough for that.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
I'll I'll
possible.
stick with my
You'll stick
answer.
with it.
Yeah, why
I
not?
mean, and I think that's fair because you can build some. I mean, there's a huge variety. There's a huge range. This can scale quite tremendously. A custom loop. You could have a single radiator in it, or you could have four
You're right.
radiators. So
The
yeah, I
the
think that makes
custom
sense.
loop could go through like an LN2 bath,
Well,
or,
let's not get carried
or
away.
like an ice bath, right? Okay.
I'm gonna say LN2. I think you need some exotic cooling at this point, and the 5.3 gigahertz is a halo figure that they're using for marketing, because this is the one leg up that we have on AMD still. But how practical is it going to be to actually hit this if if you are trying to overclock it on all cores? LN2 is about how practical it is, which is not practical at all. You guys said at least a 360 millimeter area. Okay, so a lot of
Huh.
you have faith that just a basic
Maybe
consumer grade AIO is going to be
maybe a lot
enough.
of people read the question like I did,
I mean,
or
did you read the whole question?
I mean I've trusted you to. No, I I
I worded it
I
out for
glossed
you.
over. It was one of those things where I kind of glanced at it, and I sort of like was like, okay, I have an assessment of what that is, and I just proceeded. Like, sometimes that happens, and
You
then
know, that's
sometimes,
that's what
and
that's how I read
sometimes,
all my SAT questions back in the day, and I didn't do so great on that, Paul.
sometimes there are details that are important. So
But
just
you
life
still,
lesson.
nonetheless, you still beat me out because you got slightly higher votes here
I did.
than the LN2. Yes, Custom Loop beat out LN2 by 1%.
I would also say that maybe people chose the 360 millimeter AIO because you put at least. So obviously that answer encompasses more than a 360 millimeter AIO.
Well,
So
yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see if a
semantics.
360 millimeter AIO is enough to properly cool. And by properly, I mean, and that's the other thing. How do you define properly? Like before, I
You're
think
right.
obviously
There's
no
lots.
thermal throttling, no
There's
thermal throttling. Let's discuss this a little bit. No thermal throttling has to occur, can occur, and I think at least under 90C at the very least, to the point where you're not, if it hits 90C,
aren't
it's all bets are off.
aren't these determinations that should have been made before we answered the question?
No,
Okay. just just
we don't
asking. I
we
mean,
don't we don't pay we don't care enough about the straw polls to devote that much time and thought to them. Um,
point
but
point is I won. So
the point is Paul wins
yeah,
and I get to drink more booze, so everyone wins.
I'm gonna finish mine
Um,
too.
and I think on that note, that is our show. At least this news portion. So I will say if you enjoyed the video and you're watching on YouTube, toss a like on it. It does help the YouTube algorithm. And don't go anywhere as well because we are going to be streaming a bit more on Twitch, twitch.tv/awesomehardware,
Scene
where
change.
Paul and I will be doing
Scene
some.
change.
Oh yes, scene change. Thank you, Paul. Paul and I will be streaming some games. Yay!
Ooh.
How's that COD Warzone download looking, Paul?
I paused it. It
You
was
paused it.
it was causing too much network interference, and everything was all choppy over here, and I was worried that it was
Oh
also
no.
causing my. So yeah, I don't think it would be finished by now anyway. It was.
Yeah.
It's like 100 gigs. It's the first time I've been like, my 100 up, 100 down is inadequate. I should. If only I had the.
Don't you have Google Fiber?
I have fiber to the home. And yes, I have more bandwidth available. I'm currently on the 100 plan, but I signed up when I originally got here and signed up for the internet. Um, it was 50 both ways, and
Okay.
I've kind of refused to go and like tell them like upgrade my plan and I'll pay you more money. I've just waited for them to be like, hey, we're increasing your bandwidth, which they've done twice. They went from 50 to 75 and then 75 to 100.
That's
Um,
nice.
or I could just tweet to Frontier and tell them like, hey, I'm important. Give me more bandwidth for free or
Yeah.
something. I don't know.
Leverage your social influence, damn it.
Yeah,
That's what it's there for.
I don't know what it goes up
Just
to here, but
bullying.
I could probably get. I mean, it's fiber, so I
Yeah.
I could probably get up like a gigabit connection or something like that if I was
Heck yeah,
willing to pay
man.
for it.
All
But I
right. So
really,
then
but really, the only time I ever think like I need more bandwidth is when I'm downloading
giant
big
games.
giant games. Yeah.
I'm pretty much in the same boat. Um that's fine. I still have some other games loaded up, but I think for now I'm going to close out the YouTube stream. So if you're watching on YouTube, thank you very much. If you'd like to continue watching us for the evening, please hop over to twitch.tv/awesomehardware. I'll leave a link in the description as well. But thank you guys so much for joining. We will see you next week for episode 229. Have a good night.